Hey, how's it going, everybody? So I want to do a video comparing the turn-based system in Gemstone Legends to the one that we are familiar with in Empires and Puzzles. I'm going to talk about what aspects there are in Gemstone Legends that affect that turn system, how that differs from Empires and Puzzles, and then at the end give my feedback on which I think is better and why, or which I prefer. So yeah, let's have some fun. So if you haven't tried Gemstone Legends, I think you owe it to yourself to see what it's all about. I've been playing for a couple months now, and there are an increasing number of things that I actually prefer about it to Empires and Puzzles. It is a newer game, so there is room for improvement still, but it's a company that's very open to player feedback and wants to make a game that players love, and that's not always the experience I get with Empires and Puzzles, and I think that's not news to anyone. So in the description of this video is a download link for the game, in addition to a promo code that you can use for 50 free summons, which is about a $50 value. You're going to download the game, play through the tutorial, and then within 3 hours of downloading the game, enter the code #Spock# in the global chat, which is at the bottom of the screen when you're looking at your base view of the game, and check it out. There's a bunch of people that have already come over from Empires and Puzzles. I'm in a guild of really experienced players now that have all, maybe not all, but the majority of them I think have come over from Empires and Puzzles, and there's just a lot of people. If you look through the comments on my other Gemstone Legends videos, there's a lot of people that actually prefer it to Empires and Puzzles, so it's worth checking out, and let's get into this turn-based system comparison. Okay, so let's start by talking about what we know about the Empires and Puzzles turn system. In that game, it's really just alternating back and forth from one team to the next. So you have your turn, you use your hero specials if you have them, make your matches, and then it's the other team's turn, and it keeps going back and forth. When you are since if you're playing on offense and you're attacking a team on defense, when it's their turn, you know that there's a little counter on the lower corner of the hero. Just the hero on the screen. There's a little counter and it says when they're going to attack, if their special skill is ready, all that kind of stuff. But it just goes back and forth, and I've never been able to determine any rhyme or reason for the order that things are in there. It's just like, oh, those two are going to hit me this turn. No idea why. I've never tried to keep track of how often they get a turn to know if there is any consistency there. You just kind of go, all right, here's what's happening next turn. In Gemstone Legends, that's actually quite different. So you can see at the top of the screen here, you see a bunch of hero cards, some with green arrows, some with red. So the green arrows indicate heroes on your turn, and the hero on the furthest right of this sequence is the one whose turn it is actively, which you can see is Aurora over here. And then you can see that, what's her name? Marith is going to be next, and then Floki, and so on and so forth. So how is this determined? This is determined by the speed stat of the hero. It's not shown in this view here, but let's exit this real quick and let's go to the, let's go into here. So if you click a hero, you can see there's a lot of stats. In this case, her base speed is 105, which is very good. These numbers range, to the best of my knowledge, from 96 to 110. The higher the number, the faster the speed. There are a lot of other things that can impact the speed as well. So basically what's happening at the beginning of the turn, if you look at that bar that was up on the screen before, it's basically ranking all of them by their speed. So essentially, speed is probably the most important stat in the game at this point. I know that probably will change a little bit. I think it's too dominant, and because they're so concerned with balance in the game, I think we're going to see some changes there. But at this point, speed is super important. So if you look at this hero, who was the one going first in that battle, her speed is 105, which is great, plus 29. And so that is coming in part from the equipment that I have on her. So you can see that these are all the different pieces of equipment. These ones with the green in the upper right corner are from a set that give a speed bonus when you equip 4 of them. So if we go down to that set here, there we go. So it's accuracy and also speed. So that's increasing it. The other ways you can do that are certain heroes have a leader ability, and that leader ability, so you can see for her, it's a resistance leader in all game modes. There can be a speed leader who's going to give a speed boost. So basically, I'm not sure what's going on there. Basically, you're going to use equipment from this set, which I think is called, well, there's that one, but there's also, where is it here? There's a Swift set, which just affects speed. I might not even have anything from there yet. Yeah, I don't think I do. So there is equipment from this set, the Mystic set, the Swift set. You can use a speed leader, a hero that has speed boosting capabilities, which I think I have a hero like that. I think she is a speed leader. Yeah, so she boosts the speed by 12%. You can try to look for speed substats on gear. So all this equipment is going to have primary stats. So let's look at something from this set. Go back to her equipment. So that one doesn't. So you can see at the bottom here, there's a speed of 4. You can find percentage increases. This has a speed of 3, so you can look for all these substats. So there are a lot of ways to improve the speed, and you can see that these are coming with other stats as well that are going to have an impact on the hero's other stats. And what I like about this is it gives you a lot of control over the match, right? This game is very friendly to sort of grinding your way to being better, and it really has a clear path for that. So if you can find a really good team to go in and farm the Rift, for example, you can get a lot of this equipment. So you can see the Swift set is can be found in this particular Rift. Increases speed by 25%, which is significant. And if you have these boosts going on beneath it, I think the 25% would apply after that. So as far as I'm aware, you can get speed, it starts somewhere between 96 and 110, and you can get it up to like maybe 400 with the right sort of equipment. So it gives you a lot of control. You can sort of farm for these artifacts to try to find the perfect ones for the heroes that you have, and that can be a way that you level up. So in Empires and Puzzles, you're usually having to farm to try to get certain resources for crafting and other stuff like that. Here you can really just kind of farm for artifact sets, and you still get some other stuff in the meantime, but you're a little bit more free in terms of where you invest all that farming time, and can sort of double down on areas where you have a more likely chance to get some of these different sets that you might be looking for. So it's pretty obvious at this point that you have a lot more control over this than you do in Empires and Puzzles. And in this game, there are 2 different stats. So in Empires and Puzzles, you're looking at your mana speed, which is going to be, fast, very fast, average, slow, or very slow. And then you can put mana troops on to change that. Here, you have a speed stat and a mana gain stat. This mana gain stat determines how many tiles. So basically, like, if the mana gain is 25, that means like each tile on this hero's turn in this color are 25%. So you'd only need 4 to charge. but they charge at different speeds depending on which hero's turn it is. So if it's not her turn and you match blues, then they only count for half as much. So it's a little bit different, but I just love how much more control you have over it. And if you ever really, if you've been grinding really hard trying to find the right artifact sets, your team gets better and you can have more turns before somebody else does. So you don't have to, you can buy those things, but you can also just farm for them. And you can level up your heroes while you're doing that. There's just so many things about this turn-based system that I think are inherently better. One potential downside could be if you find Empires and Puzzles a little bit challenging already, then this might seem daunting to start. However, once you sort of wrap your head around what's going on, it's not that complicated. There's just a lot to learn, right? When you're looking at this, you're like, what is ACC and what is RES and all this kind of stuff? But the more you play, the more you experiment. If you can find knowledgeable people in a guild to help you out as well, it becomes a lot less complex. And I'm sort of turning that corner right now, and am really excited about how much you can do with equipment and how much control that lets you have, and also what we'll talk about in future videos, how much you can really choose what you want a hero's function to be based on what parts of their special you accentuate with equipment. So speed is always really important, but there's just a lot you can do, and that's going to be a topic for a different video because that doesn't relate to the turn-based system. But the other part I want to touch on is all the buffs and ailments that affect speed, and there are a lot of them. So there's way more buffs and ailments, or more unique buffs and ailments. Empires and Puzzles has a lot, but some of them are just sort of redundant, like corrosive burn damage being just a combination of burn damage and defense down, so not a unique ailment per se. And you can read more about these stats in here. You can see what RES is, resistance, tells you all about it. So there's a lot of helpful information within the game to break some of this stuff down. So they've been good about trying to make things clear, but it does take some time. So if this does seem confusing, it's not just you. I was confused at first too, but the more I learn, the more I'm like, this is freaking awesome. So you can see speed decides which hero will attack first in battle. The difference in speed between heroes affects the frequency of their turns during a battle. The faster the hero, the more turns compared to other slower heroes. The cool thing is if you've spec'd really high into a super fast hero, you can potentially have 2 turns before a slower hero even has their first turn. So that's how much room there is to really get sophisticated with your equipment sets, who you're setting for a leader, what team synergies you're using, and then what sort of buffs or ailments you're using as well. So if we go down to this buff ailment list, you can see there are, green are all the buffs, and there are a bunch of them. Red are all the ailments, and there are a bunch of those as well. So we're going to look at the ones that are directly related to speed. So increased speed is one. Speed increased by 30%. So it's always just 30% when speed is increased. This could change in the future, but at this point I kind of like how it's just always the same. Since speed and mana gain are different, we're not going to look at this mana breath here, which talks about, this would be like a percentage increase, like you'd get from mana troops or something like that. It's kind of like or like from aerial or something like that. So it's distinctly different than speed, because speed determines the turn order and mana gain determines the special skill acquisition. Okay, so just making sure I don't miss anything while I'm here talking. Maybe I guess I was thinking there's more ailments to slowing down. So decreased speed, also 30%. There's also freeze, which is can't perform any actions or gain mana, which I think from my experience functions similar to decreasing speed, where it can change the order at the top. Sleep, also similar to that, can't perform any actions until attacked, so if you just ignore them, they just kind of sit there and do nothing. Silence we're familiar with if you've played Empires and Puzzles. And then none of these are speed, so I guess maybe there weren't as many as I was thinking of, but across all the different ways you can affect speed, that gives you a lot of room to build a super fast team with a speed leader and someone who is boosting speed, and or even couple that with a hero that is decreasing speed for the enemy so that the offset is in your favor. So yeah, when it comes to which of these things I prefer, it is definitely the system in Gemstone Legends, because there's so much more control that you have over it. It's not just an arbitrary back and forth where you're just simply trying to gain mana to use your special skills. It is similar to that, but it gets more sophisticated, and I really like how much more control you have. Something that Lion Roar has said in his videos is he always feels like Empires and Puzzles was less fun when there was less in your control, and the more that you have control over it, the more fun it is, because the more intentional you can be about it and the more you can attribute a victory to your own strategy and careful execution. So I feel the same way, and that's true for this turn system. I'm only just now starting to get into equipment, so my thinking with the equipment I put on here was she's a support hero, so I'll try to increase her defense. And then I chose a piece of defensive gear from this Guardian set that also has, a little bit of speed, and then chose one of the only sets that I had that gave a speed boost. This is just a flat plus 15, which is not going to be as significant as the plus 25% of the Swift. But I'll do a future video talking about equipment more in depth. So the short answer is they're both different, but I really prefer how much more control you have in Gemstone Legends at controlling the order of what happens. It just gives you the opportunity to be more involved with what's going on, and I think that gives a lot more room to be clever, to be creative, to be strategic, and to sort of be unique in how you allocate this equipment, who you set as the leader on your team, what your team composition is. There's just a lot more control, and I think that always makes the game more fun. So check out the link in the description below, download the game, enter the code hashtag Spock hashtag after completing the tutorial within 3 hours of downloading the game, and let me know what you think. It's a pretty generous free trial, and yeah, I'm curious what you guys think. I'm really having fun with the game, and I'm getting to the point where it's a lot less confusing than it was, just because it's a deep game, and I'm getting more and more excited as that happens, because I think I'm getting to the point of starting to be really effective in the game and understanding what I want to get out of it. There's still a lot to learn, but anyways, that's where we're at now. So if you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you want to see more, subscribe and hit the bell icon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.